Chapter 7. Fixing Reality. Ven lied on one of the lobby couches that Matt had carried him to after passing out. No matter what Matt did, he couldn't wake Ven up, so he let him rest. Meanwhile, in the room with Ven's father, doctors struggled to keep Mr. Sentry alive. It seemed like all hope was lost. This was the last thing they expected. What the heck is going on? The head doctor thought. There is something seriously wrong. That machine should have kept his condition stable for at least 3 more weeks, he thought. Suddenly, the beeping on the heart rate monitor slowly dropped, and as the doctors desperately tried everything in their power, there was a steady beep as the rate hit 0. The doctors looked disappointed, but they didn't give up. They tried to resuscitate Mr. Sentry. They tried pumping his heart for several minutes, but nothing worked. After trying some more, they stopped everything they were doing. They knew that there was nothing more they could do. Things like this just happen, and, unfortunately, some things are out of their control. The doctor recorded the time of death and called over another doctor. "Give the kids the news," the doctor said. The other doctor went to Matt and Ven to give them the news as he was told. Some of the doctors cried. As the steady beep continued, birds flew past the hospital window. The clock on the wall ticked, and footsteps clacking around the room was heard loud and clear. Suddenly everything stopped. The doctor's movements, the birds flying past the window, the clouds in the sky, the clocks, and even the steady beep. Everything stopped completely, all but a slow sound of echoing footsteps, which started quiet and gradually got louder as the sound approached the room. A figure walked into the room. The figure appeared to be masculine, had an all-black suit, and had smooth black hair that covered the eyes. The figure could only be described as a shadow that took the form of a human. The strange figure let out small chuckles and had a very sinister smirk. Its face looked as if it were a glitching silhouette. Moments after entering the room, the strange figure walked over toward Mr. Sentry, putting his hands out to form an ancient sigil, then placed its pitch-black glitching hands on his heart. "It is not your time yet," the figure said. The room started to light up, surrounding Mr. Sentry with small light particles. Ven finally woke up and caught Matt staring at him. But something was different. Matt hadn't been moving at all. It was as if Matt were frozen in place. Ven looked over, noticing that the patients and staff in the lobby were also not moving at all. What in the world is going on here? He questioned himself. Ven looked at his phone to check how long he'd been asleep for, and noticed that the time wasn't moving. He looked at the clocks on the wall, and they were also not ticking. Ven's first thought was to check on his father. Ven ran as fast as he could, noticing that the closer he got to Mr. Sentry's room, the slower he was able to run. It was almost as if he were being forced away from where he was running. Several feet away from the door, he started to feel a sharp pain in his chest that seemed to ache more and more the closer he got. In due time, he finally arrived in the room, holding his hands on his chest. Exhausted and in pain, he uses the doorframe to hold himself up, and notices a mysterious figure standing over his father. "What are you doing?" Ven asked furiously. He charged at the mysterious figure, who had his hands placed on his father's chest. Ven started to notice that the closer he got to the man, the more his velocity declined. Once he got to a certain point, it almost seemed like he was frozen. Suddenly Ven looked toward his left, seeing the heart rate monitor, and went into a rage. The ring on his index finger started to glow. Later came a burst of energy, cutting the figure's suit. The mysterious man who had been standing with his back turned away from Ven finally acknowledged him. The man turned his head around and looked at Ven with eyes covered in darkness. It looked at the ring, immediately deactivating it, then vanished without a trace. Ven looked in horror. The man's killing intent was so potent that Ven forgot how to breathe for a second. Only when the man was gone could he gasp for air. Suddenly Ven fell to the ground, and the doctors who had been trying to help Mr. Sentry were moving and talking again. And there was now normal traffic and a wide range of sounds within the hall. Matt ran into the room seconds later. Ven looked lifeless. When he looked to his left after charging at the man, he saw that his father was flatlined. In other words, he passed away. Matt came into the room and saw Ven. "There you are. I've been looking everywhere for you." "Wait, can you teleport?" Matt asked. He noticed that Ven was staring at something and went to question it when he noticed himself. Matt had fallen down on his knees and started to cry. He had a flashback to when he would visit Ven, and Mr. Sentry had always welcomed him. Another flashback of when Mr. Sentry had encouraged Matt to stand up for himself when he would come over with band-aids. He started to cry. The doctor, who had been ordered to give the news about Mr. Sentry to Matt and Ven, had walked into the room and spotted them. He saw them looking at the monitor and figured that they had got the news already. Matt and Ven grieved. About 20 minutes had passed, and they were about to say their final goodbyes, when periodic peeps could be heard. Matt pointed towards Mr. Sentry's direction. "Hey, what's going on?" A few doctors examined him. "I can't believe it. Mr. Sentry's condition is stable." After the good news, Matt and Ven stood by Mr. Sentry's side for a while, then headed back to their homes. While Ven got ready for bed, he noticed his phone ringing. It was Skylar. "Ven, what happened?" she asked. "It's a really long story," Ven replied. "Okay, I'm headed over now."